Arashi, Prince of the Sky. Chapter 26. Jealousy. They moved like snakes in the grass, the way they swayed through the crowd. Arashi made sure to keep at least 5 paces behind them. Anad turned around every few seconds to make sure they were still following, and looking over his shoulder at Cody, never once stopping to look at him. He didn't know why that pissed him off so much, and he couldn't wait for the opportunity to show the brothers how he really felt. Arashi turned his head slightly to check on Cody, who had a permanent grin on his face. Arashi wanted to squeeze the grin right out of his face like toothpaste. His mood was turning darker and darker as they walked, and the vendors kept hollering at them. The temperature was hot as hell, and they were in a stressful, people-filled environment.
Come on, keep up, cuties. We're almost there.
Anad was directing his words to Cody again. Arashi knew what he was doing, trying to make him jealous and distract him. Knowing it didn't change the fact that it was working. The wind was picking up, and a sudden gust of wind whipped up the narrow streets, knocking things over and causing chaos for the merchants. Arashi's hands shook as he felt the tingle of rage start to shroud his clarity. It caused his heart to beat heavily and heat to rise to his ears. Cody's naivete of the situation made him cringe. Cody kept grinning. Arashi didn't understand what changed in his new friend. He huffed and puffed and tried to get Cody to notice how upset he was, but he remained oblivious to Arashi's body language.
Brother, you need to relax. You're allowing your emotions to get the best of you. Just breathe.
I am breathing.
No, brother, you have to be calm. You don't want to hurt anyone, do you?
Ishara, I do. I really do. He was imagining taking Anad and Sarai's heads and slamming them against every door in the Medina. Then, he imagined taking Cody by the neck and choking him out, making him cry. That particular thought startled him. He hadn't thought about hurting Cody before, and that thought alone made him feel really bad. But it was as if all of a sudden, he was feeling emotions he hadn't felt before, and he couldn't help himself or control them.
Ishara, I need help calming down,
he pleaded to her. They were making their way deeper and deeper into the narrow city streets. There were stray cats and dogs lining the clay walls and dark corners of the mysterious city. Children ran up and down the streets, holding out their hands for money. He looked into one little girl's eyes, and that made him realize that he really didn't want to hurt anyone, at least not on accident.
Okay, brother, I got you. First, let's identify why you are angry.
He took a deep breath, just as Anad turned around again and winked at Cody, then looked blankly at him. Arashi held his breath and gave Anad his death stare until he turned back around. He released his breath and then answered,
I'm angry because that skinny prick is messing with me. That's why I'm angry.
Another gust of wind billowed through the streets, knocking over ornaments and signs. Cody looked around for a minute, but he was still oblivious.
Okay, brother. To understand one's true strength is knowing their weakness. That boy knows your weakness. Do you?
The question kind of caught him off guard. Of course he knew his weaknesses. He wasn't dumb, but he took a moment to analyze what she'd asked and how Anad was exploiting that weakness. He glanced back for a moment, and his heart skipped a beat.
It's Cody. Cody's my weakness, right?
It's not Cody, brother. It's the love that you have for him, but you can't let your love turn to anger and hate. Unconditional love is deeper than anger.
He didn't quite grasp how that was going to help him right now. How was he supposed to love him and not feel the things he felt? Especially when Cody wasn't showing him the love in return.
Wait, love? What the hell am I talking about? Love. I just met him. Well, kinda.
Arashi tried to pull himself out of his spell of infatuation and jealousy for a moment, but he couldn't shake the feeling of knowing that it wasn't true. After all, the truth is, he really didn't just meet Cody. He has known him for a very, very long time.
It's okay, brother. Denying it doesn't work either. You feel love because love exists there. You have to be patient, even beyond what you think you can do. Although obviously something is off. Cody has never acted this way before. Shifts in personality should definitely be cause for alarm. But you must stay calm and clear in order to make the right choice when you need to make it. Understand?
Yes. Thank you, Ishara.
I'm with you, brother.
The truth is, Cody had been consistently present. Now there was something else there. He was totally bewitched. Arashi turned to look at him again. He was still staring blankly ahead. They walked for another 10 minutes or so, turning corner after corner. Arashi didn't know where they were, but the pull of energy was definitely stronger and stronger as the sun sank lower and lower into the sky. They stopped in the middle of a much less popular street, in front of two great big iron doors. The architecture of the building was impressive, to say the least. The doors stood at least 20 feet tall. The building was a beautiful shade of ocean blue, and wooden panels lined the doors and curved up the building to form a symbol like an hourglass. Arashi took out the card Nagu had given him. It was the same symbol. This was it. The building itself emanated a pulse of high vibration that Arashi swore he could almost hear.
Here we are. They say this is one of the first structures built in the old city. That means it's hundreds of years old, but still standing strong.
His eyes were low. It made his features look even darker. A nod matched the same intensity, while they were staring seductively at Cody. Arashi put on his best nonchalant face and walked past them to the doors.
It's no use. We tried getting in. It seems as if nobody's home.
Arashi ignored him and reached out to touch it. He felt the energy directly on the other side. It was powerful for sure. He banged on the doors and waited for a reply. When there wasn't one, he took a step back, ready to bust through them.
Wait, Ari, look.
Cody put his hand to his shoulder. They looked closely and noticed an orb was nestled into the lock of the door. It was the size of a grapefruit. It glowed a blue luminescent light as words appeared in Old English scripture. It read, "Only the roar of the beast can open this door." Roar of the beast? Son of a... His heart dropped. Fear knew this. He knew he would need his voice to get his voice back. There was a string of cuss words that went through his mind as he began to lose hope. He was shaking when he turned around to face the twins. Cody stood by, still staring at the note, oblivious. "How did you know about this place?" The robotic device asked for him. He waited with his hands folded, seeing as how no one was getting inside anytime soon.
Oh, we spoke to some people, you know, here and there and whatever. Isn't that right, brother? Oh, yes, brother. It's true. What's wrong, Dragon? You seem a bit on edge. Cat got your tongue.
He was itching to kill them right then and there. They had a stare-off for what felt like minutes, their energies colliding in the middle, causing the air to splinter, spark, and groan. This face-off of nerves was just what Arashi needed to really go apeshit on them. Cody was still staring at the note, unaware of what was going on. His focus was entirely on the door, but Arashi wasn't backing down. He knew a snake when he saw one, and he definitely wasn't about to make it easy for them to bite him or Cody.
Oh, brother, he's no fun. Can we kill him now?
Bring that shit on. Everything seemed to happen all at once. Both Anat and Sarai propelled forward at Arashi, but he quickly summoned a gust of wind, sending them flying backwards. He looked to the sky, ready to summon the lightning, when suddenly a snake appeared from beneath his feet and coiled itself around his leg. It was a big yellow python that had the potential to probably swallow him alive. But Arashi wasn't done. He electrocuted the serpent with a bolt of electricity from inside his body. It fell dead and limp to the ground.
What the heck is going on here?
Cody had spun around just in time to see Anad and Sarai halfway across the field. Breathing heavily, Arashi rolled his eyes.
Hey! Yo, what the hell, you little punk? Do you have to attack everything you see?
Cody yelled at him. Without thinking, Arashi wheeled around and slapped him across the face. And then he began shaking his shoulders to try to wake him up from this daze that he was in. He was definitely not himself. Cody looked at him angrily and then slapped him back. Arashi grabbed his face in shock. He was ready to call the lightning.
Brother, we cannot let them enter without us. They will not.
They stood up together and burst into a billow of flames, then like rockets, hurled themselves toward them. Just before Arashi was about to knee Cody in the balls, he spun around just in time to see the brothers coming at him. Gritting his teeth and gathering his energy, he looked to the sky, and a giant bolt of lightning came thundering down and struck the brothers, stopping them in their place. The blast caused an explosion that surrounded the area in a plume of smoke. Panting, Arashi dropped to his knees. He wasn't able to sustain the power that he summoned. Simultaneously, the curse began burning again, causing his vision to blur. Cody stood behind him, motionless in a deeper daze. His mind was disconnected from his body for a moment. hovering in the realm of a memory where fires burned, lives were being lost, and homes burned to the ground. His heart wept for a time gone by. He was lost in thought until he noticed a gang of snakes slithering towards them out of the smoke. There were so many, it looked like the ground itself were moving. With his heart in his throat, Cody didn't waste any time flinging the snakes back with his powers. There were thousands of them. Seeing them brought back the horrible nightmare he had a while ago, during his first encounter with fear. Breathing heavily, Cody did his best to do a clean sweep of them, but there were too many. He was flailing his arms wildly, when suddenly, he felt something fall into his back, and quickly wrap itself around his neck. He struggled to pull it off, but its grip was like iron. He stumbled backward toward the doors of the building, with the snake still around his neck. Arashi tugged on the last supply of energy he had, and began running towards him, but swirling flames caught his eye as one of the brothers was hurtling towards him again. As a last result, he lifted his finger and pointed it like a gun, and fired a bolt of lightning from his fingertip. The ball surged forward and collided with the flame, but the impact was so close that the shockwave sent Arashi flying backward into Cody, who was still struggling with the python wrapped around his neck. Panting heavily, Arashi was at his max. He could barely stand, and they were about to get strangled to death by the horde of snakes slithering their way. Then, a thought came to him. The roar of the beast. He wasn't the only beast that could roar. Cody. He had to get him to roar. Ishara, help! He yelled out with his mind, but she was already diving down from the sky.
I'm here, brother.
She maneuvered herself with graceful elegance atop the snake, and with her beak shining brightly, pecked the snake one time, and it turned to ice instantly, then shattered to pieces. Cody was coughing and gagging as air was now returning to his lungs. Ishara, we need him to roar. Now!
Okay, let me think. Okay!
Ishara hopped on top of Cody, who was still sprawled out trying to recover. She positioned herself on his forehead and summoned her spirit energy. Her beak glowed as she reared back and pecked his forehead. There was a flash of light, and they were no longer in the Medina. Ishara stood in front of Cody in her human form. They were facing each other on the beach as the sun was setting.
Ishara? What's going on?
We need you, Tiger. It's time to come out for a moment. Let the spirits hear you. Let them hear you roar!
The setting sun exploded into starlight. Then they were back in the Medina, and Cody knew what he had to do. His eyes were glowing bright yellow. He stood up and faced the horde of snakes, slithering towards them. And with one sweep of his hand, a blast of energy sent them all hurtling the opposite direction. Arashi looked at him in grateful amazement, but was still just barely holding on. Cody turned towards the doors of the cathedral. Reaching for the glow, a mighty energy came billowing from his core. He opened his mouth, and the roar of the tiger came exploding out, echoing in the air. The blue gem on the door began to glow as the door began opening to the cathedral. Ishara took refuge out of the way at a nearby spot. Cody was helping Arashi off the ground when another snake fell on top of them from the sky. It wrapped itself around both of them. Then suddenly, the cathedral groaned and sucked them all in like a vacuum. They tumbled into the dark cathedral as the doors slammed shut behind them, locking on their own, leaving them in pitch darkness. End of chapter 26.